Alright, so a little update on the Datsun. I think that name is pretty awesome. Alright, real quick, I want to explain what happened with the Datsun since the last time you saw it. In the last video, I was working on cutting, trimming, and fitting the galvanized rocker panels that came with the car. Since that time, I have cut out the old panels because I realized they weren't going to fit, and I ordered different panels. So what you're going to see today in this video is after I have undid all the work I started on and redid it all with better fitting panels. So I'll explain a little bit more, but just to let you know, this video is going to be a lot of talking and a lot more showing. I did not film the entire process because I was more focused on getting the work done and trying to get back to where I was, considering the panels that I bought the first time weren't going to fit. So I'll show you real quick the differences, and then I'll let you guys look at the rest of the footage. Okay, so last time you guys saw this car, I was working with a rocker panel that looks like this. Now this is a chunk of what was left, but what I didn't realize at the time was that the rocker panel on a Datsun 510 actually gets narrower as it goes to the front. So when I was trying to fit these galvanized panels, and I won't tell you guys who these are from, but when I was trying to fit this, at the front here, where the rocker ends and is supposed to tuck behind the fender, this panel was going to stick out way too far. So what you guys missed was me getting this panel all trimmed up and fitted and roughly welded, and I'll insert some pictures of kind of how that looked here. So when I realized that these weren't going to fit and I did not possess the skill to recreate this little bump here to where it would tuck behind the fender, I decided to abandon these and go to a new one-piece rocker like this from kfvintagejdm.com. So when we get to the rest of the footage, what you're going to notice is a lot of the work has been done already. Two reasons for that. Number one, I did not want to film that process just because it's a whole lot of cutting, grinding, chiseling stuff apart, and prepping the surface for the new panel, and then a bunch of trimming to fit. Number two, a lot of the work that I did right after the first video on the Datsun, I actually lost all of that footage. So the rest of this video picks up basically on the next episode of where this build was going to go. So just to kind of fill in the blanks, that's what happened. I lost a bunch of footage, and I figured out that these cheapy rocker panels right here were not going to fit. And I'm not a fabricator, I'm not really good at bodywork, so my option was to search around and try to find a company that makes better parts. And that's where we're at now. So the rest of this video is going to be more of an overview and an explanation of what happened instead of me actually doing the work. So if that's not what you're into, then here's your chance, or here's your notifier that this video will be a lot of talking and showing instead of a whole bunch of work. And I apologize for that. In the next video, hopefully we can get a whole bunch more work filmed and get this thing really moving. It's probably, what, 4 weeks, maybe a month later, and I've been doing nothing but cutting, grinding, welding, cutting, grinding, welding, cutting, grind, welding over and over and over again on this car. The new panels I got fit so much better. So I want to do a quick update on the Datsun quick. I'm going to do the quick update quick. I guess I'll just show you guys what I've been welding. I posted some pictures on Facebook just so that people could see. I have family members that are out of town, and they kind of like to see what I'm up to sometimes. So without further ado, we'll do a quick walk around here. Stupid phone. Actually, I don't think it's the phone. I think it's the app for this damn gimbal that you're sitting on. I was just talking to the camera for like probably 10 solid minutes, just going on and on and on about what's going on with this car. Yeah, that video didn't save. I mean, I guess these are YouTube problems. I don't know. But regardless, I'll pick up where I left off and try to cut it short. I had to remake the lower part of the Apillar here. And to some of you, this might look crappy, and that's fine. But this you'll never see. I ground off all the undercoating here, and this entire section was gone. So I just remade this piece And all it does is it caps over the front of the rocker there and then ties back down to the pinch weld. So passenger side at this point, as far as the rocker is all done, and the front fender support, there's just one little bitty piece I have to redo on that. And then over here, now, I don't know about you guys, but my workspace when I'm in the middle of a project usually looks like a hardware store and an auto parts store had a less than solid bowel movement all over my shop. So I kind of live in this world. You can see there's my kneeling pad, and then around me it's just all the tools that I need to work on this, and maybe some that I don't, because I don't pretend to be good at this. This is just something I'm trying to do, trying to learn this time. Anyway, front fender support on this side, ground all the rust off of there, painted it with some Rust-Oleum paint. I actually used the activator that you can get from Tractor Supply. You mix just a cap full of that in with like a cup of the Rust-Oleum. This stuff dries really hard, so it acts a little bit more like Pour 15. Now, it's not quite as good as Pour 15 is, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper, and it doesn't react with the air so fast that if you leave the lid even slightly cracked on that Pour 15 can, you'll have a solid block of it by the following morning. So this is the driver's side. Again, these panels are from KF Vintage, or JDM. I think they're based out of Florida. They manufacture in South America, but these panels got from South America to my house in 4 days. Shipping was expensive as hell. Seems like all body panel type shit really is. These are really, really high quality aftermarket pieces. So up front here, I just have a little bit. I have to make the same panel that I did on the other side. I have to get rid of this little bit of rust here. So I'm gonna cut this back and then plate this off and tie it back into the pinch weld at the bottom. Another patch panel I'll have to make is right up here. I cut this apart because I could not get the spot welds behind it, so I decided to just cut this out of the way. It was completely rusted and screwed anyway, so I plan on making a piece that comes and fills all of this back in to the rocker and then welding that in. To be quite honest, these panels fit so nice. So here, right? Yeah, not too worried about this car being perfect. There's still a couple of other problems. But this piece back here, I actually ended up making this patch panel. So instead of ordering a dog leg, cutting it apart just to get, well, I mean, that's at least 9 inches, right? Anyway, so yeah, this is at least 9 inches. At least that's what you should tell your wife. I had to make this piece. I used, and you can tell that this is like galvanized. So in my personal opinion, anybody out there working on Datsuns, there's a couple places where you can get high quality reproduction sheet metal, and there's a couple places where you can get really, really cheap, shitty, badly made sheet metal, but it does technically work. So I reused a section of the old replacement rocker I had, and you can actually see here I made this bend in 3 separate pieces. The reason for that is that the length of each section of this bend was actually wrong. So I think it was mainly this section of the bend that was too long, and they did that, I think, because the plan for these cheap metal ones was to just slip them over the old rocker and weld them in over the existing rust, or maybe you cut the rust out if you're really trying hard. What I'm hoping to do is get these seams all welded up on this piece. And it will be a little bit interesting. This body line right here is kind of gone in the piece that I made, and it's a little more pronounced on the rocker here. So I'm gonna end up welding this completely solid, and then I'll use the flap wheel or something to kind of give us our radius back and hopefully move, the hump down a little bit. We'll see how close it gets. And as far as I'm concerned, you won't be able to see it that well if the car's moving past you. And this thing is gonna be fast. I mean, it's a Datsun, for crying out loud. And it's baby avocado green. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna do today. I didn't film a ton of this because this process, as any of you know that have done body work or do, I mean, I'm sure all the body guys out there are just rolling over and laughing at it, but for somebody who's an amateur and just trying to do this because it's a lot cheaper doing it yourself than it is to pay anybody else, it's been kind of a fun process, but a really arduous one at the same time. And I didn't want to film 42 hours of cutting out rust and then trimming a patch panel to fit, drilling out all the spot welds or grinding out spot welds or however you get rid of your spot welds. I didn't feel like filming that because rust repair, while it is satisfying when it's done, is a really tedious process that's not really fun to watch. Unless you're watching one of the big name people on YouTube that have really nice equipment and they're talented. Myself, it would have been a lot of struggle. So I didn't film it, but hopefully I'll film maybe a little bit of time lapse of welding up the back piece there. And it is getting kind of late tonight, so I may just do that and then call it a day and then get back at this tomorrow. I think I do have to do quite a bit of grinding on these spot welds. I made them a little bit larger just to ensure that they would hold. So I will have to grind those just a little bit. I know up here on the pinch weld, this actually gets covered by this edge guard, so you probably won't see those anyway, but I might fluff them just a little bit. As the great saying goes, a grinder and paint for the welder I ain't. And that is absolutely true. I don't pretend to be good at this. It's just something I do to pass the time when it's cold. After that, we're gonna fix the fenders. Now this fender is, I don't know, it's not the worst one I've ever seen, but it is completely rusted out at the bottom here. This is a patch I could maybe I could make this. I don't know. I'm really not that good at making patch panels for something that no longer exists. That's sort of where I struggle. So the same company that I got the rockers from, they actually make a lower front fender patch piece, which I think comes up to somewhere around here. So you lay the new piece over, trace it, cut it, weld it, and it looks perfect the first time. And so I still have to order those, but I wanted to get the rockers and all of this other, interior, the panels at the front and the fender braces and stuff. I wanted to get all that stuff done before I hit the fenders, because then the doors and the fenders can all go back on. And then once the majority of the sheet metal work is done, so the next thing that needs to happen with this car is the cross member, which is in that pile of junk down there. There's actually two of them. I have one that's a rusty sort of template. But that cross member needs to be cut and flipped. And I plan on doing a whole video on just that, because I haven't been able to find a good one on YouTube. The only one must have been shot with a, I don't know, a Fisher Price camera or something in the dark. So I plan on at least trying to shoot a little bit better video of flipping the cross member so that the KA will fit in here. The KA swap in the Datsun's been done a million times. I'm just following a formula that other people have created. There's a couple things that I wasn't able to find reference to, so I'll try to film them if I can. That's where the Datsun's at for now. I'll set you guys up and I'll do a little bit of time lapse while I'm finishing up the welds on that back piece right there, and we'll call it a day. And just like that, almost done. You can see there's a wave in this body line, whatever. Gotta do some more grinding on it. And then I think I'll perfect that or get as close as I can with filler. But there's a little more grinding to do up here and a little bit in that corner down there, because I did have a seam in there. So I'll finish that up tomorrow morning, but this is looking pretty good. Maybe a couple more pinholes to weld up and this thing is done. All right, a couple other update shots real quick. This is the driver's side right here. I did finish the front of the lower Apillar here. So again, as I mentioned in the other clip, plated this off, made a new piece here to wrap around and tie back into the pinch weld. Yeah, I know those welds don't look great. Again, this is all going to get covered back up with rubberized undercoating, and it's going to be behind the fender. So, driver's side, pretty much all done. You guys saw me grind this a little bit, and yes, I know that this is a little wonky here. I will fix that, or as much as I can with filler. I did grind a whole bunch of the spot welds. So, the driver's side rocker, pretty much ready to go. Lower part of the B pillar still has rust. I'll deal with that later. Okay, if you can see over here, this is the passenger side. You guys have seen this before. Previously, there was a big hole right here. Made a patch panel, filled that in. I also had to do a similar patch panel to the rear part of the rocker panel, just like I did on the driver's side. That is also done, and yes, it will need filler and it will need a little bit of smoothing out, but again, this car's not perfect, so I don't care. Forgot to mention too that I also made a plate, bent this all up in here, and this has now been repaired as well. So there is no longer a hole there. I got one other thing I want to show you guys. So right there, that is the passenger side front fender. I have fixed that. I have a little bit more grinding to do on the welds down there, but the fender has been patched. That's where the battery tray was previously. There's this sick ass hood that comes with this thing, isn't it great? I don't intend to change any of the paint on this car. In fact, the olive drab green right there, I'm gonna sand that off, primer it, and I'm gonna get this pale green matched at the paint shop so that this car looks, hopefully, like it's still original. Man, this thing looks like a mess. How many of you guys are divas? I consider myself a shop diva. I have AC out here. When I built this garage, I only put 2 windows in it. One of them was for that guy right there. Keeps it really nice in here. I also have some ceiling fans. Those really help. And of course the heater over in the corner. Kind of have to have that. But dang. I know this thing basically looks like a molting bird or a snake shedding its skin right now, but it's going to be really cool when it's done. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry that this video was so much talking. I am trying to be a little bit more diligent about what I do with all my video clips. So that's where we're going to end this one. Stick around for more content on the Datsun. The next video is ready to go. Have a good one.